I mean,
Alan
it's
Powell, Alan
basic.
Powell, the real AP, says Nick is mad anytime cops have to be held accountable. Not at all.
No,
Actually, I'm fully in favor of
no.
cops being held accountable all the time. I've advocated for cops who weren't held accountable to be held accountable. The guy who shot Philando Castile, I disagree with Bronk on that. I don't think it was a
Well,
good shoot.
you thought Chauvin needed to go up the river. I mean, I remember you and I talking about that.
Yeah, I think the jury reached the right verdict on the manslaughter charges for Chauvin. I think the murder 2 and murder 3. Well, I thought murder 3 would be an appropriate charge, but the Minnesota Supreme Court disagrees and they say that it's not. But since he got murder 2, it doesn't really matter. I have the murder charges were inappropriate for Chauvin, but manslaughter was appropriate. I do think that he couldn't get a fair trial in Hennepin County, and I don't think he did.
Mhm.
But I think they ultimately would find guilt wherever they charged him.
Yeah.
Um,
In this case, they got it wrong legally, and they got it wrong from a policy standpoint. Um,
yeah, I don't care if cops get
you know,
convicted when they do something wrong or do something criminally wrong.
honest mistake is not criminal. How hard is this for people to understand? You know,
Yeah, it's no,
um,
it's
it's.
the thing.
I
If
mean,
you ever the weird thing is, so people who are happy that the state prosecuted a former police officer call people who are unhappy with the state prosecuting the former police officer bootlickers for the state. And it's like,
yeah. Well, obviously, anybody'd say that's an idiot because you and I, neither one have sent for the police. We both expressed reservations about a lot of things police do.
look, I'm for the state punishing a former police officer, therefore I'm not a bootlick to the state.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well,
okay,
there's
I
yeah.
guess that's the hot take
Yeah.
you want to make, but go ahead. That doesn't make
But
any sense.
about him, and this case was not lost on closing arguments.
Alan
It
Powell,
was.
I know you're having trouble comprehending what I'm talking about, but when I say former officer Kim Potter, I'm referring to the fact that at the time she's prosecuted, she was a civilian and the state is the one prosecuting her. So if you're going to argue that saying that my legal analysis of how the jury got the recklessness decision wrong because it doesn't actually rise to recklessness is because I'm a bootlick or simping for the state or for an officer, you're actually simping for the state prosecuting its citizenry.
Look at the mental gymnastics that he's pulling here. First of all, when she shot Dante Wright, she was not a civilian. She was a government agent. Just because she said oopsies and then quit doesn't, negate the fact she did what she did as a police officer. They're not two different people. There is an Officer Kim Potter, and when she takes off her badge, she's a completely different person, not liable for the things she did. That's why people are saying that you're simping, because you're looking for any reason, completely illogical, to justify her actions.
Like that's
And even more remarkably, you're too fucking stupid to even realize it.
and that's the weird thing with these cases is that it's if are you a bootlick for the state if the state prosecutes the state? Like which one is it? Like where do you draw the line? It seems like an absolutist position, but a failure of recognizing the absolutist position.
Well, this one's pretty easy. I'm not sure where he got at the absolutist position, but if you are for the state holding itself accountable, if you are for government holding itself accountable, then you are essentially not a bootlicker. You become a bootlicker when you think that government should not be held accountable. Essentially you're licking the boot saying, you're better than everyone, you deserve special treatment. You can shoot someone, say, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Do the full Steve Urkel, did I do that? And then, the laugh track goes on, and then, it's like a Family Matters, reunion.
So I can't figure out
So I got to straighten my hat to
who's
keep
right.
these outputs under
If you
control.
think that the state needs to be prosecuted, but that only the state can prosecute it, that doesn't make much sense because that's still honoring the state. It's just your version of the state rather than the other version of the state.
Well, see, that's the whole thing with government. Essentially, we created the government to be an impartial entity that would do the, prosecution, etc., to avoid mob mentality taking over. Personally, I would like it if the people, like the night after she shot, and the video came out and that it was very clearly evident that she had no justification in drawing either her taser or her gun in that moment. I think the people should have dragged her out of her house and caved her skull in on the street. That's my personal opinion. Then it would save taxpayers money. We wouldn't have to waste time on the whole court process, etc. But, again, people smarter than me, created government so that stuff like that doesn't need to happen, because eventually that road leads to people getting unjustifiably killed just the same.
So I don't know, man. I'm not calling balls and strikes on the state here. I'm calling balls and strikes on the fucking facts and the law. And I'm trying to explain to people what the law of recklessness is. And the jury got this wrong.
Well, this one's pretty easy. The law of recklessness essentially says that if a defendant knows there is risk but goes ahead and takes it anyway, such as using a taser and choosing to deploy a taser when there are other officers inches away whom are already hands-on. Also, when there is a policy saying that if a car is on or you think it is on, you do not use a taser because it could, make them hit the gas pedal and then, run over a fellow officer, that may be around them. So, you can't play both sides of it, which they did in the court case, of course. They tried to say the reason it's okay that she shot him, it's okay she used a taser or shot him, is because there was a possibility that he could have dragged one of the other officers. But the thing is that the other officers already were hands-on and were preventing him from fleeing and using his vehicle. It was dumbass Kim Potter's, shouting taser, 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 which allowed Dante Wright to actually flee. Because the other officers were like, holy shit, this dumb fucking diversity hire is about to tase me when I'm inches away from the suspect, so I'm getting the fuck out of there. What really happened here is she was training someone that day. She wanted to prove that women aren't incompetent in law enforcement and they're just as good. And then in doing so, she proved exactly how incompetent women are in law enforcement. They don't belong there. They don't have what it takes. It's just that simple. And no one should shed any tears over her being held accountable because, even if you've never held a taser and a gun, or a gun, the two are vastly different. Just because they're in the shape of a gun doesn't mean they're exactly the same. One, she would have free pinkies, and they're on the opposite goddamn side of her body. So you think that an officer after 23, 24 years would be able to tell the difference between left and right.
Now, there's a whole lot of times that the jury gets the law wrong. Sometimes it goes in favor of the defendant. Sometimes it goes in favor of the state. That's the way it goes. But I don't really care who's the defendant in this case. I care that the law is like, again, if a police officer goes to jail tomorrow, I'm not shedding any tears unless there's injustice. And I saw injustice. If you don't see injustice, great. But
Yeah.
Nick keeps failing to give his point of why he actually thinks that they got it wrong. He'll say it's wrong, that they got the law wrong, but he won't give what he thinks the definition of negligence is legally, and why it's, why the jury and the judge in the court and the prosecutors and the defense allowed it to be wrong. It's not him who's wrong. It's everyone else